Thanks for coming. Happy Halloween. There was a few costumes earlier, but now I don't see the costumes. They've disappeared. So I'm going to talk about MOOCs because I'm in the process of developing one, but I am not an expert, but I have lots of other experts in the room. Much deeper into this, and his team are here, so they're going to field all the hard questions. My main thing with developing the MOOC, and the reason I was excited about doing it, is I'm curious as how it's going to change teaching and learning and generating conversations around teaching and learning. In that vein, if you have a question, please holler. Okay, nobody's sitting in the front, just like in my classes. All right, we are also going to try out, if you're doing something with technology, I feel like you should push the envelope a little bit. So this is a tool developed here at Thayer. I think Ben was the main developer of it, Ben Servos, who's here in case anything crashes and dies on me. It's not going to happen. But I'm going to ask a few questions along the way. So if you have an online device, you can go to this webpage. It'll give you access to this presentation, and you'll be able to answer questions. It's like a clicker. It's like our homegrown clicker. Okay? Give you a minute to do that if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay? I use it a little bit in my classes. It works great for big classes. Professor Diamond, who's over here, uses it quite a bit more than I do. Okay. We ready? You're not ready? Saul, you don't have that on your thing? This is my first question, and it gets to the reason I do not use them in my classes a lot. Okay? So, I will not be distracted by my online device. I may be. If you definitely think you will be, okay, give me your honest opinion. All right? We'll see what we got. Did you all vote? You may. You will. 2 people will. Who are they? Come on, I need more will nots. Can I go backwards, Ben? Question mark Jones? The expert's right behind you. All right, let's move on, and we'll see if you're distracted. Keep track of that. All right, so MOOCs, what are they? Just a definition, they're a massive open online course, okay? If you've seen The Princess Bride, you know the word that he's referring to? Inconceivable. So they're massive, huge enrollments as high as 200,000, I believe. Okay, average enrollments, I think, around 40,000. So they are big classes, attracting a lot of people. I think that's settling down a little bit. When they first came out, I went and signed up for a couple because I wanted to see what they were about, and I think a lot of people did that. They're open and free. You can get a certificate where you have to pay a little bit of money, but in general, the philosophy is they're open and free access. Online, so you can do them from anywhere. I would like to distinguish them from online classes, which I have taught. When I first moved to the area, I taught online classes for Cal Poly, actually in a hybrid mode. Those take a ton of work. Okay, this does too. The MOOCs take a ton of work too. I think, Andy, would you agree with that? Yeah, okay. But it's different. You know, in an online class, I was emailing back and forth one-on-one with people. I'm not going to be able to do that with 40,000 people. At least I don't think so. I'd need some superhuman approach to that. They are a course, so they're not just a 15-minute video. They're a collection of things that are targeting a learning goal or a learning objective. I think of them more as a textbook, a really fancy textbook from which you can learn, but they're different to me in my mind from a real class in my classroom. Josh used CAS, right? Course at Scale. Okay, and I like that one. It's a great article. So distinguishing it between a residential course, an online course, and what it is. It's a MOOC, and it's kind of its own thing. Okay, I have to get used to not using my arrows and using the next button. Okay, a little bit of history, but I don't know a ton of the history. They're pretty new. 2012 was named the year of the MOOC, and that's when it really jumped up. It was started in Canada as a connectivist branch. The original ones, I think it was a group of people just trying to figure out how they could get all these learners out there together to work on problems. It's changed a little bit in the tone, and we'll talk a little bit about that eventually, but just to give a little history. The 3 big ones, big platforms, are Udacity, Coursera, and edX. I don't think I've missed any of the really big ones. No? Okay, so next question. Have you MOOCed? We'll see if people have signed up for a MOOC. So have you completed a MOOC, registered for a MOOC but didn't complete it? Okay, that's the difference between A and B. You've browsed the course listings. You're you're interested but busy, or you're not interested at all. Okay, just see how many people have participated. I personally am in the registered but never completed. Okay, it's just too busy. I'm just too busy. Oh, lots of people registered, browsed, completed. 5 people have completed courses. That's good. A few nots. I don't have to run from the room yet, though. All right, so let's move on. Completion rates. Felt like I couldn't talk about MOOCs without talking about completion rates. They're the big complaint, or a lot of hype around MOOCs is people sign up but then they don't complete them. And you just admitted that I admitted that I signed up and didn't complete them. Completion rates vary. I think they're changing because I think with fewer people just signing up to see what they are, the completion rates might go up. Because the less people are just going to sign up out of curiosity. They'll be more serious about them, maybe. Personally, I don't care that much about completion rate. If people come in and get what they wanted out of the course and then leave, maybe that's okay. Maybe they just came in and wanted to learn the 2 weeks at the beginning or in the middle. Personally, I'm okay with that, but hopefully the higher-ups won't yell at me when everyone drops my class. I don't want to be the one that's got the lowest completion rate, because people do publicize those, and that's not good. Okay. Some headlines. New York Times, Year of the MOOC. There's been hype, both positive and negative. Okay. It's the big thing in education, or at least it was. Okay, so how do you feel about MOOCs? Do you agree with the positive headlines or the negative headlines? MOOCs are a terrible way to teach students. They provide new opportunities for teaching and learning, or I'm apathetic. What do you think? Is this keeping you engaged, or are you just checking your email? Excellent. Nobody said terrible. I think I biased the audience. All right, still don't have to run from the room. This is partially what I think is happening with the hype. You know, the MOOCs came on board and it's like, oh, it's going to completely change all of education. And there was this inflated expectations and then the trough of disillusionment. I was telling somebody recently, I think I'm currently at the trough of disillusionment. I got all excited. Oh, think of all the simulations, the great things we can do. And then the reality set in of, really? I don't know if we're going to be able to do all those things. So I'm kind of down there, but I'm hoping to come up this slope of enlightenment. I think, Andy, you're up there? All right. So there's hope for me. Okay. This is a bit dated because it's, 2013, and now we're already in 2014. It's dated in the sense that this video that I'm going to show you, it's short. I think it gives a good perspective on MOOCs, better than I could kind of describe what they are if people have never gone in and looked at them. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but it's also an experiment to see if I can make a video work here. I don't think you can get this on your online device. Is that right? So you just have to trust my screen.
Every few seconds, the ticker on the Coursera website...
And the ticker's gone a lot higher by now. This is a year and a half ago.
Enroll in courses like human-computer interaction, introduction to astronomy, and modern poetry, all offered by top-tier universities.
I've been teaching a class similar to this at Duke for 10 years, and I'm excited about the opportunity to offer it to many more students through this online venue.
Welcome to the brave new world of massive open online courses, known as MOOCs, a tool for democratizing higher education.
How did he write all that?
So welcome to the Artificial Intelligence class on the
A MOOC is usually free, creditless, and massive. MOOCs first landed in the spotlight last year when Sebastian Thrun, a Stanford professor, offered a free artificial intelligence course.
My husband took this course.
160,000 students
Didn't
in
finish it.
190 nations. Although only a fraction of students who sign up actually complete the courses, millions of students are now enrolled in hundreds of online courses, including those offered by Udacity, Mr. Thrun's spin-off company, edX, a joint venture between Harvard and MIT, and Coursera, a Stanford spin-off that has attracted top universities like Princeton, Columbia, Duke, and University of Pennsylvania.
We're in the business of creating and disseminating knowledge. And in 2012, the internet is an incredibly important place.
Lucille J. Emanuel, a former health advisor to the White House Office of Management and Budget.
There's nothing like watching yourself on video to realize how boring and stilted you can be.
So far,
None of us. That'll never happen to us.
computer science and math.
This is where it's not accurate. There's lots of non-computer science.
Providing instructor connection and feedback in courses like Dr. Emanuel's is tricky.
The student who's not in the class can't ask me a question directly in real time. And we can't go off on some path that might be very important to understanding certain subtleties or complexities of the course.
It's funny that people get really worked up about the grade.
Even
People
online.
have to feel like, they're being acknowledged for the amount of effort they're putting in.
So let's talk about access to healthcare in the United States.
Although Coursera's founders want to keep courses like Dr. Emanuel's free of charge, they acknowledge they'll have to monetize to run the company, send money to partner universities, and pay back investors who have put some $22 million in
almost
venture
done.
capital into Coursera.
I think part of what's key here, and part of what Coursera's gotten at is, it makes more sense to build your user base first, and then figure out later how to monetize it, than to worry too much at the beginning about monetization.
Most education experts predict that the main source of revenue for MOOC providers will be licensing its courses for a fee, as a course in a box that can be used by community colleges or other institutions.
Welcome to calculus.
At University of Pennsylvania, there are high
This is one approach to animations.
calculus course starting in January, taught by Professor Robert Grist using his own hand-drawn animations.
Look, this is, we're just learning. We're just at the start.
The Wild West. All right, so that I thought gave a better introduction than I could do. I'm excited about the different things you can do with MOOCs, so I hope we'll have fun. I, along with Saul, was on the committee that looked at whether we should jump on board with the MOOCs, and we looked at Coursera and Udacity and edX. We ultimately recommended edX because we felt like, the committee felt like the goals of edX aligned with Dartmouth's goals, and they align with what I believe. So partially we're doing MOOCs because we believe in education or access for everyone. One of my main goals is to enhance teaching and learning in my own classes. So I have an artist working on hopefully, I haven't gotten that approved yet. Can I have an artist on my team? An artist to help with drawings that I can use in my classes later. I want to develop some animation simulations. Just the fact of me I wrote out my script for one of the weeks, and I gave it to Adrienne, my instructional designer, and she said, wouldn't this make better sense up here? I'm like, probably would. I've been teaching 10 years down there, but maybe we'll try it up here. So just changing the way I teach. We want to do some research on teaching and learning, and we'll talk about that in a minute. edX also is a nonprofit, so Coursera and Udacity are for-profit. edX is still trying to make it sustainable, but I'm not going to worry about that part. It's open source. I believe in open source. I believe in open classrooms. We don't share our teaching and learning. We're behind closed doors most of the time. So just opening up a classroom, I think, will change the conversation. So there was a proposal or call for proposals that went out. I don't remember how many, 14, something like that. Proposals came in. For some reason, we were the 4 selected. Okay, all of the MOOC professors and most of their teams are here, I believe. So Andy's class, Andy and the Mics, and Barbara, Andy, the Mics, and Barbara. It just doesn't sound as catchy. They're doing an introduction to environmental science. They're much further along. They actually have a course page that I'll show you, engineering of structures around us. Our course will go out second, and then we'll have opera and Renaissance literature. Okay. So Andy's course it's not just Andy's course. His team is up. Okay. And you can sign up. Do we know how many people are signed up? 1,500 with very little advertising, right? That's good. No advertising. So it's going to increase. Should I ask permission? May I show your trailer? Okay, he already has a trailer and everything. His trailer is only about a minute long. They've been telling me I have to do a 2-minute trailer. They're lying to me.
In the 1960s, there were 3 million people on Earth. Today, there are 7.2 million inhabitants continues to grow. Which environmental problems are real and which ones are blown out of proportion? Can we
Hand
do
in your
anything
face.
as individuals to reduce environmental harm, or is everything in the hands of governments and corporations? I'm Andy Friedlander, Professor of Environmental Science at Dartmouth in Hanover, New Hampshire, in the United States. Join me as we explore the field of environmental science and gain an understanding of human population dynamics, agriculture and soils, fossil fuel and renewable energies, and biodiversity and global change. We'll examine these and other issues and visit a variety of locations where we will experience environmental science firsthand. The course is Introduction to Environmental Science. I hope you'll join us.
Yay, are you going to sign up? It's great. So I feel like the pressure's on now. So Andy's quite a bit further ahead. This is my course team, plus TAs, plus hopefully an artist. And we're hoping to get a computer programmer. If anyone knows a computer programmer, what do I need to look for? JavaScript, Jared? Yeah. JavaScript, okay. To do some simulations. I'm looking. You need more help? It's been really fun to work on a team, and that's just a different way to teach too. So having that opportunity has been great. And we're learning from Andy. He's testing things. Okay, a couple things we have tried. We have a light board now. It's on the second floor of McLean if anyone wants to use a light board. I didn't even know what a light board was. Jared said, we need a light board. I'm like, okay, we need a light board. So what it allows me to do is to write on this glass screen, and then they take a video. So this is, Adrian took this picture so you could see the whole scene. Jay's doing the video, and I'm talking at this glass wall, and then they flip it around. Okay, when they produce the video. That brings up another Princess Bride. I know something you don't know. I'm not left-handed. But everyone in the videos is going to think I'm left-handed. So I'm excited to use that. I use a tablet PC pretty heavily in class, so this will be nice. I can look at the audience and write. I'm also excited to incorporate hands-on building activities. I feel like you can't be an engineer without building things. I'd like to make use of animations and simulations, and this is, again, why I'm down in that trough, because it's looking like a lot of work, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get there, but we're working through it, and hopefully we'll have some exciting things that we can put in there. We're also excited about doing different research questions, so everyone on the team kind of has their pet research question that they want to answer through the MOOC. Even if we only get 1,000 pieces of good data when we look at different research questions, in the MOOC, that's a lot of years of me teaching a class here. So that's pretty exciting to think of, different questions that I can ask, different ways I can present the information, looking at clicks, looking at all sorts of different things to answer different questions. Oh, time for a question again. Okay. What is the future of MOOCs? Do you think they're a passing fad? They're here to stay, but they'll have little to no impact on the college experience. They will change the college experience. They're here to stay, but they'll have changed teaching and learning. Those are the options I gave you. Give you a minute there. Getting the hang of this. I think I've influenced them again. Nobody thinks they're a passing fad. Somebody told me just yesterday, I think it's a passing fad. They're not in the audience, though. So I don't have the answer on this one. I don't know. I jumped in because I wanted to experiment with teaching and learning. This is what Sebastian Thrun from Udacity has to say about it. He was a Stanford professor, quit his job and started Udacity because he believes so strongly that they're going to take over the world. Don't know if I agree there either. I'm just telling you what people say. Okay. Sal Khan. I like what he has to say about changing the way the classroom interaction will happen. Okay, I'm excited that might happen. Okay, and what I'm most curious about on the front slide, this is a repetition of that, are MOOCs and other online resources changing the way we teach and learn. So that's what I'm excited about exploring a little bit. So I've got a couple more questions related to just teaching and learning. So traditional methods of instruction are effective ways of teaching and learning. How do you fall on that scale? Oop, I did that faster than I thought. Neutral, strongly agree, disagree. Got a whole range here. Now we got lots of agrees. All right, I'm not going to comment on that yet. Let's try another one. I hear this a lot in the halls. Oh, I have so much to cover. To cover more content, will the students learn more content? Where do we fall on that one? All over the board, a little bit towards disagree. And the final one. Faculty are the experts in their fields and thus experts at organizing the content. Of course they are. Why did they laugh so much on that one? 'Cause strongly disagree. Wow. What does that say about the classes you guys sit in? I think they knew where I was going with that one. So these were 3 of 9 dysfunctional illusions of rigor. It's a great article if you haven't read it. It's a chapter from To Improve the Academy, but Rick Reese, if you get tomorrow's professor's listserv from Stanford, he posted out the whole thing too, and I can send it to you if you want it. Teaching Naked also makes reference to it and lists them. I was going to use that for my title, Teaching Naked. Would more people have come, you think? I told my children, and they said, oh my gosh. You cannot name it that, Mom. Also a good book talking about technology. Teaching Naked is about using technology so that you can have better interactions in the classroom, and has some great ideas. Jane.
You had something a few slides back that indicated that students might be able to obtain materials related to the course.
Attain materials.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't answer the question.
No, that's okay. I wanted people to interrupt.
Are there going to be materials that students can purchase, like packages?
Oh, yeah. Talk to Jared. So there's hands-on, we have a lot of hands-on activities, and Jared said no one's going to complete the hands-on activities. I'm like, well, we won't know until we try it. And so we're trying to use really like spaghetti and popsicle sticks and things that they'll have easy access to. Jared keeps saying they're still not going to do it, and so he wants to send out kits or have kits available. Okay, I'm actually coming on board with it. Okay, you know, we might have a little fulfillment.
40,000 kids?
Well, we're not going to. He's going to do them in his kitchen with his new baby. He's got a new baby on the way, on his back. We're working through how we're going to do that. But yes, order through Jared. So traditional methods. When Anant, how do you say edX founder's last name? Agarwal was here. He talked about how traditional classrooms really haven't changed very much, and that's not universally true. But the way we teach hasn't been impacted all that much. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? And this is a bit of piece of evidence. So I like this one because it says the evidence we reviewed is clear that the lecture discussion mode of instruction is not ineffective. Okay, but we can do a lot better. I'm not promoting that we have to use a technology. I was actually not a big technology person. When I first started, I just used chalk. PowerPoint was coming out when I started teaching. I was like, oh, I hate when people just zip through all those slides and I can't understand anything, and I stuck with chalk. And then I finally started using PowerPoint and a tablet, and I've evolved. And now I'm teaching a MOOC, and I sometimes wonder how that happened. So it's not just about technology, but trying to find some other ways. So this is more data. So there's the physics people, physics instruction are way ahead of engineering. We got to work on that. But his data showed of 6,000 people that were in this study, that the students learned on average twice as much using effective interactive pedagogies. The key there to me is effective interactive pedagogies. So it doesn't mean just use a video instead. It doesn't mean just throw people in a group and have them do something and hope they come out on the other end with some good thing. Okay? Those are just as ineffective. It means work on an effective strategy. If I cover more content, I can talk really, really fast. So you would think that my students would learn the most because I talk the fastest. This is level of student attention. I'm sure we've seen that before. If we talk for 60 minutes, they just kind of drift off. They come back here and there. And taking breaks helps, but you never get the attention that you're going to have in the very beginning. In the MOOC world, that means I'm supposed to follow the 6-minute rule. Okay? Every video is 6 minutes. So what edX did, they had a lot of data that they looked at. This is video length on the bottom, 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. As you go beyond like 6 to 9 minutes, the video is longer, but they start watching less. Okay? So we're going to try to keep our videos short. Okay? Faculty are experts in their field. This was an interesting study. I don't know if that made me feel good or bad. Okay. So if we spend a lot of time improving or tweaking our lecture, it really didn't make any difference. What made the biggest change is changing the pedagogy or switching up the way you were teaching. And that's, we have such great resources here. There's how many? 5 instructional designers? Okay. Willing to help. Lots of technology people, so take advantage of them. Okay. I felt like I couldn't talk about MOOCs and teaching and learning without putting in flipped classrooms. I will admit that flipped classrooms, I have a bit of a visceral reaction to flipped classrooms. I'm trying to get over that. Okay. I think because I have flipped in a certain sense for a long time, and I think everyone in a sense is flipped. Read this and then come to class and we'll discuss it. The flipped to most people means videotape something, watch that videotape, and then come listen to it. I don't know. I figure if the lecture's so boring that we just want to get it out of the classroom, then let's just not do it. Okay. And certain things are better suited to that than others. And I'm sure it works. Petra worked great for Computer Science 20. So there are some great examples out there of flipping. I do not think I'm going to flip my whole class. I still like to do the complicated derivations that I can see them glazing over. I can ask them questions. They can ask me questions. Another thing Professor Agarwal said in his presentation was, it's better online if it's complicated because then they can rewind it. I'm like, and there's no rewind button in the classroom. I'm like, there's a rewind button. You raise your hand. And then usually what I respond with is saying the same thing louder. But eventually I get around to a new explanation, and that's where there's some good learning happening. So I think in-class learning is still going to be the better approach, but not being afraid. I'm not afraid to do activities in class for sure. So I'm coming around to flipping, okay? But I had to get out there that I have some biases. All right, the final question. Now you have to own up. All right, somewhat, not at all, totally. 2 people were totally? So sad. Maybe I shouldn't ask these questions, but I don't want to see the answers. All right, I tried to keep it fairly short, so there'd be lots of time for question and answers, and there's lots of Dartmouth X people in the room that can help answer questions, or we can just go home and trick-or-treat earlier. I know my children are excited about trick-or-treating, so that is fine too. All right, Brian.
Do they get a Dartmouth transcript?
No, not at all. Not even they.
So what? So that is it a university credit?
Nope.
Repeat the question.
Oh, sorry. Brian asked if they got university credit. If people taking your class are going to get Dartmouth credit for taking environmental science.
So if they take your course and then they go to University of Vermont and major in environmental science, can they count that? Or, no. It's up to the.
I guess it would be up to the individual university if they wanted to count the course. Dartmouth isn't counting any, at least not for the foreseeable future. For Andy's course, you can get a certificate, right? So they can sign up to get a certificate. That doesn't mean that they're getting Dartmouth credit for it. It just means they certified that they finished his course. So I imagine before anyone would give credit for the course, they would go look at the course and see what was in it and see if it lined up. It might line up with a community college class or.
There's probably a credible revenue stream in there just in transcripts.
I'm sure people are trying to figure it out. Yes.
That's a follow-on question to the point you just made. You said that one of the principles of the Dartmouth X and edX was financial sustainability. And I'm wondering whether you or anyone in the audience has any recent information about the business model, whether it's successful or not, whether it is generating revenue, and if not, when is it expected to be financially sustainable?
I do not think it is yet, and I'm deflecting to Josh and maybe Andy.
Yeah, so edX, not for profit, Harvard and MIT put in $30 million each. We didn't put in anything.
Good job, Josh.
Free rider.
And they're looking for that sustainability model. They have a runway. It's well-resourced by those schools that went in. Some other less elite, less selective schools are actually paying to play with edX. Boston University or Colgate or other schools like that. helping with the revenues, but at this point, it's not figured out. All it has to do is become sustainable, right? That's all. No one's looking to make any money, and it's a consortium, and there's pretty good feeling that over time we'll figure out how to do that. But Dartmouth does not expect to make any money on this. We're doing this to experiment and learn.
Thank you. Can I respond? One of the thoughts that comes to my mind is as we're watching the market for publications and textbooks and things like that, I think we're not really talking about the how to monetize MOOCs, but a lot of the things we use as educators, how to make them financially sustainable. There's a lot of our infrastructure that is on the verge of massive change, and I think it would be wise to look at MOOCs within that larger context. I don't know about you, but I have students who basically find through BitTorrent textbooks. And so, a textbook that costs $100. And so, how do those people go on to keep making textbooks? So, I think it's a bigger issue that we're all looking at, and MOOCs is just one piece of that issue.
If you don't know Steve Swain, he's doing the Opera MOOC next. I totally have to sign up for that one. Andy, did you have...
So I don't know anything other than what I read in the newspapers about this subject, but we did learn that edX is, every course has been free to this point, unless you want to pay $25 to get a certificate. But what is it called? Corporate training. They just started their first corporate training class. That's $1,800 per enrollee. So I think that may be.
Is that through the business school or?
Does anybody know what?
I did hear about it, but I don't.
I don't remember. They have several initial partners. I want to say MIT. Yeah. There was one or two other institutions, and they have other roles in edX as well, but those are specific metrics.
That sort of raises the other issue of what's buzzing in the marketplace now is vocational training instead of pure academics. That corporation effort sounds a little bit like in company corporate vocational training. Is there anything coming out of the bushes that looks to exist in that niche?
I did read about that. Vocational training. Are there MOOCs targeted at vocational training, which is that fair for the question? I thought I'd read something about people going that track.
There's a school in India. There are people where they're training the same time that we went to edX, and they're doing vocational programs to help with employment rates in their local area.
Yeah, so they're trying different ways. Yes, Lisa.
So the way that you set up these lecture slides, how can I do that? And how long did it take you to do that?
This LCS system, the questions? Yes. Right, Ben? I just offered your services. Is that okay?
We can talk later. Talk to us.
They'll set you up.
How long did it take you?
With Ben sitting right next to me, not very long at all. Yes?
So I have two questions. One is about the cost. I read some reports that it seems like it takes $4,000 and above to record 1 hour online courses. And some courses may take a few $100,000 to make one. So do you think if you change, or maybe you can review some figure if possible on what's the cost for recording numbers? The second question actually is about the technical side, the teaching side of the MOOCs. As a last gentleman question, someone like a company, they want to provide vocational education resources, but simply EX is dedicated for the university. Do you think the MOOCs can help university to hold the education, or maybe change it to maybe everyone, like a company, individual, they can access the teaching side as well?
I think that's one of the goals. So getting open access and letting anyone come in and see the course, I think, is one of the goals. You're right. We're not, edX is set up to be partners with with universities, not with companies. But I think companies can set up MOOCs through other venues.
I can also take the cost one.
Yeah, I'm not going to take the cost one. I think you can do a low-budget MOOC. Petra Taylor, who's here at Thayer, not here today because she is only here part-time, she did a MOOC, and it was pretty low budget. It was just with a webcam for the most part. You can do a low-budget one. We're not going, but I'll let you.
Yeah, I'll quickly talk about the cost thing. So we made a very conscious decision here at Dartmouth to not create a separate MOOC team, that everyone who is working on our Dartmouth X are people who work every day with faculty on their teaching, because we're doing this to help us learn and what we're doing here, and also for whatever we design and develop, hopefully the faculty will be able to bring that back to their teaching. So it's very hard to break things out, because this is kind of the normal thing of what we're doing. Yes, we're trying to free up resources so that faculty and the instructional designers and librarians they work with can do things they want to do in the class, like the animation things that you want to do, or create media, and we're trying to be flexible with that. But it's very much embedded in building up capacities at the college. Alan, do you want to add to that?
Nobody wants to touch that one.
Well said.
Saul.
Do you think that the MOOCs will undermine the vitality of community colleges in our country by centralizing education to an elite few, and if so or not?
You know, I don't know, and part of me worried about, so Saul was asking, will MOOCs and the availability of MOOCs undermine community colleges? And, you know, I've read where we're going to have this two-tiered system, and you go to the elite school or you don't. And I do have concerns about that. I think the community colleges will survive, and I hope they do, because of their level of interaction. I know several people that teach at a community college, and their level of how much they work with the students. You know, maybe they will outsource and take a video from an outstanding physics professor or somebody and use it, or environmental science. But then I think they'll wrap it around the faculty there working with the students, and I hope that's an okay model. I would hate to think that, you know, we're developing a two-tier system. I agree with that. So I hope I'm not part of the problem there. Alan.
Something on that?
Sure.
I think one of the things to register about MOOCs is that at first glance, they're very much obviously about content distribution. And I think what we're going to find as we get increasingly deeper into this experiment, I think it is an experiment, is that the MOOCs are going to enable new communities. So the communities themselves, I think, are going to become much more permeable, and they're going to assemble much differently than kind of the hierarchical structures that we have right now. It's not something you're seeing right at the moment, but I can see it taking place as the tools that support these content engines begin to be much more aware of what they can do to bring people together, you know, locally, regionally, nationally, and then globally.
Where do I go? Eric.
This is a question for you and also for the other people that are developing the MOOCs. What expectations do you have for students doing work outside of class? Is there homework? And then how will you give them feedback on it so that they know that they're gaining from doing the homework?
So for my class, I'm gearing mine not to a high school audience, but to an audience that's maybe curious about engineering, but isn't sure they want to do engineering, or they're, you know, older and they want to understand the engineering around them. So I'm less concerned that they do a whole bunch of homework. I do want them to do hands-on activities, and if we go the certificate route, you know, they'll have to do a certain amount of things. We are planning to do quizzes and assessments that will be more multiple choice, but I think you can craft multiple choice questions that aren't just regurgitate necessarily, but thought. We do want to use discussions and posts. There is peer assessment, so if we do hands-on building activities, they can post images. We are going to do hands-on building activities. Whether we do the kits or not is still up for debate. But when they post an image, you know, we'll hopefully get peer feedback and lots of discussion on what people like about different things, and hopefully structure it that way. So I don't have we're still starting. I don't have a definitive answer. You are much further along on the assessments, right, Andy?
I don't know. That's a great answer for our team as well.
Your team too. You're trying the different things, and yeah, I can't respond to 10,000 emails. It's just not possible. So you have to rely on the crowd, or you have to rely on multiple choice. So it's a different mode. It's not me in the classroom.
I think to your question, I think, Andy, your MOOC says that you expect 5 hours of work, but how much video are they watching of you?
So in an average week, might have a better answer. 40 minutes of video, 30 to 45 minutes of video. So in addition to that, they are reading open access Creative Commons readings that we posted within the site. There are self-assessments There's the assessment at the end. There are additional readings that we haven't really set up yet that will be optional if you want to know more, do this. And we are trying another kind of exercise, an energy audit, where I do this with the students in my class, where they try to quantify their personal energy for a year. Energy that goes through their fingertips. Home heating, home electricity, transportation, and eating. And we think we can do that in a way that will almost, we haven't perfected this or even got very far, self-assessment on that as well. That is, it depends on if you're in a developed country or developing country, but the range of possible values will show.
Francis?
Do any of you who are developing these things think that the ones you are developing at Dartmouth X will become the basis for a flipped classroom somewhere else, where they will adopt your video and use it as a basis for a course that they'll get credit for? And if so, will there be anything coming back to Dartmouth for that?
I think Andy's has the best chance at that, being used elsewhere and flipped. I think mine has the potential to be used at least in segments by high schools. High schools are getting much more interested in engineering and engineering design, and so they could take pieces of it and use it in their classrooms where the teachers are intimidated by engineering and can just steal something from my MOOC, and I would be happy that that happened. I don't know that that's going to be a revenue source for my course because high schools typically can't afford that, but I can see yours being used in flipped classrooms elsewhere.
I think so, both at the high school level and at the college level, because it's a pretty standard course, Introduction to Environmental Science.
Yes. Way in the back.
So MOOCs have traditionally been associated with very high attrition rates, like less than 10% complete.
Average is 7%.
Yes. And so, as a result, a lot of MOOCs are kind of watered down versions of real college classes. And so I'm curious to how have you balanced the trade-off between providing rigorous, comprehensive education representative of a Dartmouth class versus also making your class accessible and engaging for participants?
Right, so mine is based on my class for my non-majors, so it's not rigorous in the sense that it has a lot of math, but I hope there's still a lot of critical thinking happening. Watered down, I wouldn't say. I would say it's shortened. So I'm not putting all 10 weeks in there. I'm not covering all of the concepts. I've pulled out what I think are the key main concepts, and we'll focus on those. And I hope get a great understanding of those. And I'm hoping that they'll just be curious about it then and go off and try to learn the rest. So I think it can be just as rigorous. And there are courses out there that are full-length 15-week courses that, they list as 10 to 15 hours plus of work a week. So it's possible.
I'd just like to comment, 7% of 20,000 people is still a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. I'm not worried about attrition, but Josh.
And I'd like to try to answer that question also, is that in no way do we think of Dartmouth X courses as substitutes for Dartmouth courses. Not at all.
I'm just trying to get them excited about engineering. So if they come in and do that, then that's fine.
Dartmouth courses is a much different thing. What our measure for this is how much we learn, right? How much do we learn that we can really improve what we do here? We do want to have outreach. We do want to highlight our faculty. Those are important goals that we always have. But that is our measure. So there's no way that these are substitutable.
Can I ask Josh a question? So has anybody, are any MOOC courses on track to be an official university course that is transfer credit to other universities? For example, have any Dartmouth students ever gotten credit for a MOOC course at MIT, or something like that?
I don't think any Dartmouth students have ever gotten credit. There's some institutions that are experimenting with using MOOCs within a kind of blended and flipped environment. Yeah. The colleagues might know. That's not on the table here.
Yes.
I think, at least as regards to that goes, it's important to remember that there are a set of people working around the world, particularly public health and places like that, who will use elements of MOOCs to either help with their knowledge base or as teaching tools in places where there just is no infrastructure to learn that. So while they have signed up to get access to this to help them teach a topic that's outside of their area of expertise, but they're the only one there that knows anything about it, that doesn't mean that the MOOC or that content hasn't been effective, right? So they didn't complete the whole course. They logged on to find something to help them teach, while they were in Liberia.
And I think that's a win.
I agree. Steve?
As somebody else said, I mean, some of us are thinking about these MOOCs as textbooks, and very few of us, when we teach a textbook, go through the entire textbook.
You don't read it cover to cover?
Yeah, no, and I think it was Anant's comment, you know, he set out to teach this class, there are 50 textbooks about that class, what did he do but write a 51st? And so these MOOCs are not going to replace other classes, just as one textbook doesn't necessarily replace another one. And people are going to take out of the text what they need for the knowledge that they need at that moment, or maybe they'll consume the entire textbook. That would be interesting, probably boring. But
maybe for your
think,
course.
You know, they're not as scary as I think some people may think they are.
Yeah.
And if I could follow up, when public libraries first were created, people thought that that was going to be the demise of learning because all this stuff was going to be so easily accessible. And so it seems funny to us that that would be the case. And so I think in many respects we're at one of those moments where we're shifting paradigms in terms of how knowledge is disseminated and available. And it's unfamiliar to us, but we do have historical precedent to look at and know that, okay, this may be like that moment.
And we're in it. Yes?
I had a comment on the community aspect of the MOOCs. I think somebody down here mentioned
Alan,
that
yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how the communities kind of build around these. And for me, one of the big hang-ups is sort of like doing this work in isolation, not really interacting with people. Yeah, sure, there's the interaction and the homeworks and things like that, but it's not the same as being in a classroom around other people. And I know a case in point, some of my friends back home in the Cleveland area got together on like a meetup group, and they were a part of the Stanford machine learning class.
Those are becoming much more popular. So everyone take the course. There's one on campus, right? The STEM learning. Adrian, aren't you helping with that one? So there's a group on campus they're all taking a STEM learning course and then meeting in decal once a week to discuss what's happening in the class. That's a new model that I think might take off.
So I really work on that. Yeah, I guess my question was, are you trying to facilitate something like that, you know, with these courses that are coming out?
We've talked about it. It's on our list. We have a long list. If you want to come join our team, you can help me with that part. Yeah, it is a goal. I think it's a great model. Yes.
So right now, all these different companies who are providing these courses both for profit and for non-profit, there seems to be a lot of like good intention, goodwill for providing good quality courses and for disseminating information for kind of democratizing education. And also, is there like a general worry about this kind of new format of education also taking the path which the university culture, like in the US, is taking, where you get this very, because of monetization, you get this very kind of unhealthy divide between the rich and the elite having access to the best quality online courses, and as people who can, there's a general worry about
The future changing so that the best courses will start costing or something?
Well, yes, I mean, it always sounds like Coursera and these companies are moving towards a for-profit direction, and that's a more sustainable model.
They're not, from what I understand, they're not moving towards paying for the course. They're moving towards maybe paying for a certificate, but leaving it open access. I know edX wants, that's one of their guiding principles, that open access is going to remain. I can't speak for anyone really, but I hope that is the case.
But is there a general worry about that moving in a direction where even this can become inaccessible to certain people who can't afford it? That's my question.
My course, Andy's course, is completely free. Anyone can take it.
Well,
so
as long as you have internet.
as long as you have internet. That is key, but. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Is there, like say for example, if I was taking one of your classes and I had a question, what would I do?
A question in this class?
Like about like something that you said in one of your lecture videos, like.
You could post. We're going to have a
contact you or your.
No, I can't respond to you. Sorry. I would love to, but it's going to kill me. I know when the class goes live and there's all these questions, I'm going to want to respond to them all, but I'm going to have to be locked somewhere in a room and not do it. From what I understand, is if you post to the website, and this has happened in the MOOCs that I've taken, if you post to the discussion board, your question gets answered pretty quickly, not necessarily by me or by a TA, but by others in the class. So it's relying on others to help you answer that question. So questions do tend to get answered, and we will have hopefully TAs that will be monitoring discussion boards to make sure we're not going off on a direction that's completely wrong. But there will probably be people in my class that know more about structures than myself. People take these courses just because they're curious or they teach it somewhere else and they want to jump in. And so lots of people, from what I understand, will jump in and answer questions. Andy?
So just to follow up on that, Mike Galbraith is the instructional designer working with the MI course. We've been evolving some thinking, but one of them is, say somebody posts a question while all the TAs at Dartmouth and instructor are asleep. There could be somebody in China wide awake who's responding, and the answer comes an hour or two after the post. We're coming up with the idea of something that edX allows community TAs, so we can identify people. Maybe we
I forgot about that feature.
Who are telling me, I'm going to take your class, and they took my class here at Dartmouth 20 or 15 years ago. We can designate them as community TAs, and their response gets a little bit more notice, a little more weight. And so there's a lot of interactive ways. Maybe I've just, purchased and bought into the dogma, but rather than a one-on-one email with an instructor, why not post it on a discussion board and everybody gets the benefit and everybody gets to weigh in? So it almost says there are no private office hours, there are no private email. It's all open. Is that good or bad? I don't know, but that seems to be the model.
The experience, having taken a bunch of these, because I was away last year, it's pretty robust. The discussion boards are pretty robust, and your answer is you usually get to the right answer pretty quickly. Even in sort of an uncurated sort of setting, there's enough people who understood what was going on that it gets it.
A couple more questions. Jane, I've been ignoring you. Should I not ignore you anymore? I know. Like, she's right next to me. She can ask me that later.
Some of my questions have been answered, so that was probably very wise.
Okay.
But my question is this. It seems like you can, through your assessment strategies there, actually gain a lot of information about populations which might be useful for study. So I'm wondering, when students sign up, are they giving permission for their answers to be used, or is this a Facebook comment type of thing where studies can be done and people don't know that they might be? For example, you might be able to get information out of your course about from however many thousands of people about their daily use, and then break it up by countries, regions. I mean, that's a huge opportunity. Maybe there are ethical issues.
I think as long as you don't, this is my understanding, as long as we do not identify the person with the data point, it is okay. But we are talking about going through Irb approval to do some research studies. So it is on our list to get Irb approval for certain pieces that we want to, especially if we send these kits out, we have to know where they're going. See what trouble he's causing me? We're not going to try to secretly take data. Does that answer your question? Brian?
I know time is running out.
We had a trick or treat soon. Come on.
I point out one thing. You have strategically changed our Jones seminar series into a Jones discussion.
I purposely wanted to have it for discussion.
Our Jones series.
There we go.
But I do want to thank you.
Thank you. It's fun.